Chairman, thank you. Madam Secretary, thank you for your presence today. I appreciate Senator Blumenthal recollecting the efforts to make certain the contract tower program was funded. That occurred back in 2013. I would remain skeptical, Madam Secretary, you indicating that rural America, and particularly contract tower programs, would be more secure with privatization of air traffic control and a board of 13 people. Based upon my experience in dealing with this issue in the Senate, as I recall, to restore the funding for that contract tower program, there were 26 Democrats and 25 Republicans who joined together in offering legislation, an amendment on the Senate floor. So a majority of the Senate, in fact, a majority of both Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, put the efforts together to make sure contract towers were supported.
Yes.
And I would put that, I would put the risk of the survival of contract towers in the hands of Congress much more easily than I would put in the hands of a board of 13 people making decisions nationwide. I think one of the problems with privatization is the removal of Congress from having a role to play, and particularly and by rural, what I think I mean by that is almost any place except for the largest cities in our country is rural. And so I would put my eggs in the basket of asking Congress to be supportive of rural programs much more readily than I would put my eggs in the basket of a 13-member private board. I want to comment on your statement about a longer, to Senator Fisher's question, a longer reauthorization is a good thing. Boy, I share that view, and I was very disappointed that we were unable in this committee to ultimately get a long-term FAA reauthorization bill passed through the Congress last time. But the reason we were unable to do that is this topic that now is in front of us again, privatization of the FAA. And so, Madam Secretary, if it becomes clear that the votes are not present in this committee or in the United States Senate, will then you help us pass an FAA long-term reauthorization without the privatization provisions?
I wish I can answer that question, but as you all know, I cannot, without consultation from the administration and the White House.
Perhaps I'm only making a point, and perhaps it was a rhetorical question, but the issue that now faces us is the same one that faced us the last time. And in fact, with the administration's support of this concept, the chances of getting a long-term FAA reauthorization, in my view, have now been diminished. So at some point in time, the decision needs to be made by you and others in the administration. Is our priority a long-term FAA reauthorization, or is it privatization of air traffic control? Because those two things may be mutually exclusive. And then I want to thank you for responding to our February letter. Senator Klobuchar and I wrote you asking about your assurances that your comments in your confirmation hearing about reaching a national consensus on this topic. We received your response last night, and I thank you for answering that letter. I'm not sure there's a national consensus, but I know the effort was made to seek input from a variety of interested parties when it comes to this topic. And then finally, on a different topic, let me ask you about spectrum allocation. Madam Secretary, one of the significant legislative accomplishments that Senator Udall and I worked on was to expand the Spectrum Reallocation Fund to include a $500 million pool for research and development. I'm pleased to see that the FAA recently announced that it is taking advantage of that pool to investigate whether it can relinquish some of the 1300 to 1350 megahertz band. That's encouraging. It will free up more spectrum if you reach that conclusion to deploy next-generation wireless networks, 5G. Could you bring me up to speed on your thoughts and the status of that effort, that investigation within your department?
The investigation is extraordinarily complex, and I don't have a good answer for you today, but I will get one for you.
Very good. Madam Secretary, thank you again.